Okay, picture this. Crisp autumn air, maybe the smell of roasting chestnuts, those red and yellow leaves everywhere. It's that time of year.
Yeah, and for a lot of us, that means, jack-o'-lanterns, maybe some trick-or-treating,
Yeah,
Halloween stuff.
right, the usual costumes and candy. But have you ever stopped to think that this whole idea, this spirit of connecting with the afterlife, it plays out really differently across the globe?
Oh, absolutely. Dramatically different in some cases. It's not always about being spooky or getting sweets. It's often much deeper, more complex.
And that's exactly what we want to explore today. We're doing a deep dive into some source material covering four really fascinating traditions that are kind of like Halloween, but also uniquely their own.
Our mission really is to get past the surface level and understand the why. Why these rituals? What's the thinking behind how different cultures approach this time when the veil between worlds feels, well, thinner?
Let's start with the roots then. Halloween, October 31st, All Hallows Eve. Where does it actually come from?
Well, the foundations really lie in an ancient Celtic festival called Samhain. This was celebrated way back, mostly in the areas that are now Ireland, the UK, and parts of northern France.
Okay, Samhain. And what was its significance?
It marked a huge turning point in the year. It was the end of the harvest, the end of the lighter half of the year, and the beginning of the dark, cold winter. A crucial time.
And this links to the afterlife how?
The Celts believed that right at this transition, this pivot point of the year, the boundary or veil between the world of the living and the world of the dead became really porous. It was thin.
Ah, the thin veil idea. So that concept is the thread connecting these global traditions, whether it's about welcoming spirits or protecting from them or just remembering.
Pretty much, yeah.
Hmm.
That core idea that the worlds are closer at this time is central, and you see it reflected in that whole period some call All Hallow Tide, which includes All Saints' Eve, All Saints' Day, and All Souls' Day.
Okay, so let's jump from those Celtic origins to a place where this connection is incredibly vibrant and honestly quite beautiful. Mexico.
Right, Mexico's Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. It's actually recognized by UNESCO, which tells you something about its cultural importance.
And the timing lines up perfectly, doesn't it? Late October, early November.
Exactly, October 31st, November 1st, and November 2nd. It coincides directly with that All Hallow Tide period we mentioned.
But the feel is so different from the typical Western Halloween. The colors, the mood. It's not somber or scary, is it?
Not at all. It's a celebration, a reunion. The whole point is for friends and family to gather to remember and actively pray for their departed loved ones, almost helping them on their spiritual journey.
And the ofrendas are key here, right? The altars.
Absolutely central. These are altars, often incredibly elaborate, built either in homes or at grave sites. They're decorated with photos, marigolds, candles, and crucially,
Oh.
the favorite foods and drinks of the person who has passed.
And the skulls,
Yeah.
the calaveras, they're everywhere, but they're not menacing.
No, they're often colorful, whimsical, sometimes made of sugar. They really symbolize that death is just a natural part of life's cycle, something to be acknowledged, even celebrated, not feared. It's a continuation.
It sounds like an immense amount of work, though. Building the ofrendas, the multi-day celebrations. Is it seen as an obligation, or is the effort part of the joy?
I think the sources suggest the effort is the point. It's an act of love, of remembrance. It's about actively maintaining that relationship with those who've passed. It feels like a genuine, heartfelt reunion, a culture of acceptance, really.
That idea of joyous acceptance feels worlds away from our next stop. Let's shift gears completely and head to Asia, specifically looking at traditions shaped by Buddhist and Taoist beliefs.
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the Hungry Ghost Festival, which you find in China and other parts of Asia. Here, the focus isn't so much welcoming specific ancestors back, but dealing with spirits more broadly.
And the timing is different too, right? Not autumn.
Correct. This happens during the 7th month of the lunar calendar, which is often called Ghost Month. It usually peaks around the 15th day of that month, typically falling in August or September.
So Ghost Month, what's the core belief here?
The belief is that during this month, the gates of the underworld or hell open up, and spirits, particularly those who maybe didn't have a proper burial or send-off, are allowed to roam the world of the living.
Okay, so these aren't necessarily your ancestors popping by for a visit. They could be any wandering spirits
Yeah.
looking for what?
Exactly. They're seen as potentially restless, maybe mischievous, looking for food, entertainment, things they missed out on. So it's less of a family reunion and more about managing the situation, showing hospitality to avoid misfortune.
Managing the situation. How do people do that?
Well, rituals focus on appeasing these spirits. Families will pray, offer food, often vegetarian meals, and sometimes even set out empty seats at the table for deceased family members, treating them as if they're still present.
And the offerings get pretty specific, don't they? I read about burning paper items.
Yes, joss paper. This is a big part of it. People burn paper replicas of things like houses, cars, money, even servants. The idea is that burning these things transmits their value to the afterlife for the spirits to use.
Wow, that suggests a very almost bureaucratic view of the afterlife. Like you need resources there, too.
You could sort of see it that way, yeah. It implies the spirit world mirrors the material one in needing provisions and comforts. It's a very structured way of ensuring the dead are provided for.
Is there a defined end to this period? How do they ensure the spirits, well, go back?
Oh, definitely. It's not left open-ended. There's a specific closing ritual. About 14 days after the festival's peak, people release lotus flower-shaped lanterns, often on little paper boats, onto water.
To guide them back.
Precisely. These lanterns are meant to light the way for the spirits to return to the underworld. When the lantern goes out, it's taken as a sign that the ghost is successfully returned. It's quite orderly, focused on restoring balance.
From that kind of structured guidance in Asia, let's swing back to Europe, but maybe away from the very modern Halloween. Italy, for instance.
Right. Italy has Tutti I Morti, or Giorno dei Morti, All Souls Day, celebrated November 1st and 2nd. The main practice is similar in spirit to Dia de los Muertos, remembering, praying for the dead, visiting cemeteries, bringing flowers.
But it sounds like there's a lot of regional variation, too, not just one single way of doing things.
Oh, absolutely. The regional customs are where you see fascinating local folk beliefs blending with the more formal religious observances. It shows how these traditions adapt.
Like where? Any specific examples?
Well, take Orsara in Puglia. They believe souls return from purgatory, so the town lights big bonfires to sort of comfort them. And they decorate with Cos Priatore carved pumpkins representing these spirits.
Pumpkins? That's interesting. Not just an American thing, then.
Not originally, no. And in Sicily, there's a lovely tradition where children wake up on All Souls Day to find small gifts, supposedly left by their deceased relatives. Some parts of Abruzzo have kids going door to door asking for gifts for the souls of the dead.
So gifts from the dead, carved pumpkin lanterns. Our sources mentioned these existed in Italy before American Halloween became such a global phenomenon.
That's what the evidence suggests, yeah. In Veneto, for example, carved pumpkins were called lumere, meaning lanterns, or sometimes suche morti, dead's pumpkins. They symbolized resurrection. It shows these ideas guiding lights. Harvest symbols pop up independently.
Okay, one more stop. Let's talk about Romania. It's impossible not to think of Dracula, but what's the actual local tradition around this time?
Yeah, the Dracula connection is strong in popular culture, but the local reality is different. The main religious observances, Catholic and Orthodox, focus on the Day of the Dead, November 1st, much like elsewhere. Churches often discourage Halloween itself.
But there is folklore about ghosts and spirits.
Oh, yes. The real peak for that kind of folklore isn't Halloween, but St. Andrew's Eve, which is November 29th. St. Andrew is a major patron saint there.
November 29th. And what happens then, according to the folklore?
It's believed to be a night when ghosts and potentially malevolent spirits roam freely. So, protection becomes important, especially in more rural, traditional areas.
Protection how?
Yeah.
What do people do?
Garlic. People, particularly older generations in the countryside, might rub garlic on their doors and windows.
Ah, the classic vampire repellent. But used more broadly here.
Exactly. It's used to ward off bad spirits in general on this specific night. But alongside that protective element, people still perform acts of remembrance, bringing flowers to graves, attending church services, and offering food and drink for the deceased, believing they can enjoy it in the other world.
Okay, so looking across all four, Mexico's vibrant reunion, China's careful guidance, Italy's regional lights and gifts, Romania's protective garlic, what's the common thread? What unites them?
Well, the core sentiment, the shared human impulse, is definitely about remembering and honoring those who've passed away. There's always some form of offering, a belief in a spirit world that interacts with ours, and often the use of light, whether it's candles, lanterns, or bonfires.
But the approach is so different. The emotional tone varies wildly.
Massively. That's the key difference. You have the joyous embrace of death as part of life in Mexico, then the more cautious, almost transactional approach in the Hungry Ghost Festival, managing the spirits, and then the outright defensive posture with the garlic in Romania.
Yeah, putting out favorite foods on an ofrenda feels completely different from rubbing garlic on a window, doesn't it? It speaks volumes about the underlying attitude towards the spirits.
Absolutely. And this brings us to language, which is so revealing. Think about the words we've used. Ofrenda, calaveras, cospriatorja, lumere. They aren't just labels.
They carry the feeling, the cultural context.
Exactly. They tell you immediately if the mood is festive, like calavera, or perhaps more symbolic and traditional, like lumere. The language encapsulates the tradition.
It's fascinating how that core theme, acknowledging the dead, is almost universal. But the way it's expressed, the specific words and rituals, really shifts depending on the local culture, the dominant religion, whether it's Catholic, Orthodox, Taoist, or older folk beliefs.
That adaptation is the story, really. How these universal human needs to remember, to connect, maybe to protect, get filtered through local lenses and result in such unique traditions. They all use similar tools, offerings, light, beliefs in spirits, but for quite different ends. Reunion, guidance, defense.
This has been such a rich journey exploring these different perspectives. It really makes you think, doesn't it? I encourage you listening to maybe reflect on your own background or local customs. How does your culture remember or honor the dead? Is there a specific time or ritual?
And maybe take it a step further. Here's a thought. Why not engage with this knowledge directly? Pick one of the terms we discussed, maybe the Spanish ofrenda or the Italian lumere. Look up its meaning, how to pronounce it.
And do what with it?
Perhaps try a small, symbolic gesture inspired by one of these traditions. It could be as simple as lighting a candle in remembrance or setting aside a small treat, thinking about someone you've lost. It's about making the knowledge feel, well, real, applied.
That's a lovely way to connect with it personally, bringing the deep dive right into your own space. Thank you for taking us on this global tour of afterlife traditions. It's been truly eye-opening.
My pleasure. It shows how much variety there is in the human experience, even around universal themes like life and death.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.